Hello everyone, and welcome back. Today, we're diving into the fascinating story of one of the most legendary aircraft of World War II, the Mitsubishi A6M Zero. This revolutionary fighter wasn't just a plane. It was a symbol of Japan's early dominance in the skies and a marvel of wartime engineering. We'll uncover how this lightweight and incredibly agile aircraft managed to outclass its opponents at the start of the war, achieving an unmatched kill ratio of 12-1. But as we'll see, the Zero's brilliance came with trade-offs that eventually led to its downfall. So buckle up and get ready for a deep dive into the history, design, and legacy of this iconic warplane. Let's get started. The Mitsubishi A6M Zero was one of the most iconic aircraft of World War II, symbolizing Japan's military prowess in the early years of the conflict. Designed to dominate the skies and serve as a potent carrier-based fighter, the Zero represented the cutting edge of Japanese aviation technology at its debut. Introduced in 1940, this aircraft initially outclassed almost all Allied fighters in terms of speed, maneuverability, and range, earning a fearsome reputation. However, as the war progressed and technological advancements from the Allies began to outpace the Zero, its weaknesses became more evident. Despite its eventual obsolescence, the A6M Zero remains a testament to the brilliance and limitations of wartime aircraft design. The Zero's story began in the 1930s, during an era of rapid military expansion and innovation in Japan. Following its victories in the First Sino-Japanese War and Russo-Japanese War, Japan aspired to establish dominance in the Pacific. A crucial part of this strategy was the development of a powerful Navy and Air Force. The Imperial Japanese Navy, IJN, recognizing the need for a next-generation fighter to replace the Mitsubishi A5M, issued a set of ambitious design requirements for the new aircraft. These included an 8-hour cruising range, superior maneuverability, and armament that could rival any fighter in the world. The aircraft also had to be compact enough to operate from aircraft carriers, with a wingspan of no more than 12 meters. Two manufacturers, Nakajima and Mitsubishi, were tasked with meeting these specifications. Nakajima's team ultimately withdrew, believing the requirements were unattainable with current technology. Mitsubishi, however, rose to the challenge under the leadership of Jiro Horikoshi, a brilliant and determined engineer who would later become synonymous with the A6M Zero's success. Horikoshi recognized that achieving the Navy's specifications would require a radical approach to design, prioritizing weight reduction above all else. To make the aircraft as light as possible, the Mitsubishi team employed a newly developed aluminum alloy known as extra super duralumin. This top-secret material was lighter, stronger, and more ductile than traditional alloys, allowing the Zero to maintain structural integrity while reducing weight. However, it was also highly prone to corrosion, a significant drawback given the harsh maritime environment in which the aircraft would operate. To mitigate this issue, the alloy was coated with a zinc chromate anti-corrosion layer. In addition to innovative materials, the Zero's design incorporated other weight-saving measures. Unlike many contemporary aircraft, it lacked armor protection for the pilot, engine, and critical components. The fuel tanks were not self-sealing, a standard feature in most Allied aircraft by this time. These compromises made the Zero exceptionally lightweight, enabling unparalleled maneuverability and range. The aircraft's empty weight was just over 1,600 kilograms, significantly lighter than its Allied counterparts. When the A6M Zero entered service, it quickly proved its worth in combat. Its debut in the skies over China during the Second Sino-Japanese War marked the beginning of a series of remarkable successes. The aircraft's combination of speed, agility, and firepower allowed it to dominate enemy fighters with ease. The Zero's 12-1 kill ratio in the early years of World War II underscored its superiority. Pilots praised its responsiveness and ability to outmaneuver virtually any adversary. The Zero's armament was another factor in its success. Equipped with two 20mm cannons and two 7.7mm machine guns, it could deliver devastating firepower. Additionally, it had the capacity to carry two 60 kilograms bombs, making it a versatile platform for both air combat and ground attack missions. This flexibility allowed the Zero to excel in a variety of roles, from dogfights to strafing runs. However, the Zero's dominance was not to last. As the war progressed, Allied forces began to adapt their tactics and introduce new aircraft that could counter the Zero's strengths. The development of the F-6F Hellcat, F-4U Corsair, and P-51 Mustang marked a turning point in the aerial battles of the Pacific. These aircraft were faster, more heavily armed, and better protected than the Zero. Additionally, Allied pilots learned to exploit the Zero's vulnerabilities, such as its lack of armor and susceptibility to catching fire. The introduction of radar and improved coordination among Allied forces further diminished the Zero's effectiveness. By 1944, the once dominant fighter was struggling to compete with newer designs. Despite this, the Zero continued to play a significant role in Japan's war effort. In the later stages of the conflict, it became the aircraft of choice for kamikaze missions. The Zero's long range and maneuverability made it well suited for these desperate attacks, which aimed to inflict maximum damage on Allied ships. The story of the Mitsubishi A6M Zero is a compelling example of the interplay between innovation and compromise in aircraft design. While it was a masterpiece of engineering for its time, the Zero's emphasis on lightness and agility came at the expense of durability and survivability. This trade-off ultimately limited its effectiveness as the war progressed and technological advancements rendered it obsolete. Nevertheless, the Zero remains a symbol of Japan's ingenuity and determination during World War II. Its legacy endures in the annals of aviation history, serving as a reminder of the challenges and triumphs of wartime innovation. The Mitsubishi A6M Zero first demonstrated its capabilities during the Second Sino-Japanese War, where it quickly gained a reputation as a near-invincible fighter. Its early successes in the Pacific theater were no less spectacular. The aircraft made its combat debut in the attack on Pearl Harbor on December 7, 1941. The Zero, operating from aircraft carriers, provided air superiority over Hawaii, escorting bombers and strafing ground targets with devastating precision. This operation showcased not only the Zero's impressive range and performance, but also the meticulous planning of Japan's naval aviation strategy. In the months that followed, the Zero dominated the skies over the Pacific. During Japan's rapid expansion across Southeast Asia, the aircraft was instrumental in securing air superiority. From the Philippines to Malaya, Singapore, and the Dutch East Indies, the Zero gave Japanese forces a decisive edge. Allied pilots, flying aircraft like the Curtiss P-40 Warhawk and Brewster F-2, a Buffalo, found themselves outclassed by the Zero's speed, climb rate, and agility. In many cases, Allied fighters were unable to keep pace with the nimble Japanese aircraft, resulting in heavy losses. One of the Zero's most remarkable qualities was its range. With a combat radius of over 1,000 miles, it could operate far from its base, a critical factor in Japan's island-hopping campaign. This long reach allowed it to escort bombers deep into enemy territory, extending the operational range of Japan's airstrikes. No other fighter of the time could match this combination of range and performance, making the Zero a strategic asset for the Imperial Japanese Navy. Despite its early success, the Zero's limitations began to surface as the war progressed. Its lightweight design, which gave it superior maneuverability, also made it fragile in combat. The lack of armor and self-sealing fuel tanks proved to be fatal flaws. When hit, the Zero was prone to catching fire or disintegrating, leaving its pilots with little chance of survival. These vulnerabilities became apparent during the Battle of Midway in June 1942. This pivotal clash marked the first major defeat for the Japanese Navy and exposed the Zero's inability to withstand sustained combat against better-equipped enemies. Although the aircraft performed well in dogfights, the tide began to turn as the United States introduced new fighters with superior speed, firepower, and protection. The Grumman F-6F Hellcat, introduced in 1943, was specifically designed to counter the Zero. Armed with powerful 50 caliber machine guns and built to withstand significant damage, the Hellcat proved to be a formidable adversary. Its rugged construction and superior speed allowed it to survive encounters that would have destroyed a Zero. Similarly, the chance-fought F-4U Corsair and the Lockheed P-38 Lightning further tilted the balance in favor of the Allies. The introduction of advanced tactics also contributed to the Zero's decline. Allied pilots learned to avoid close-quarters dogfights, where the Zero excelled, and instead relied on boom and zoom tactics, diving from altitude to deliver a quick, powerful attack before climbing back to safety. This approach exploited the Zero's weaknesses in durability and energy retention, reducing its effectiveness in combat. By the final years of the war, Japan's once dominant air force was struggling to maintain its relevance. The Allies' industrial and technological advantages were overwhelming, and the Japanese military faced a severe shortage of trained pilots. In a desperate bid to halt the Allied advance, Japan turned to kamikaze missions, a tactic that involved deliberate suicide attacks on enemy ships. The A6M Zero became the aircraft most associated with these missions. Its long range and maneuverability made it well suited for kamikaze operations, allowing it to evade enemy defenses and strike with precision. While these missions inflicted significant damage on Allied ships, they were ultimately a tragic and futile strategy. The loss of skilled pilots and aircraft further weakened Japan's air capabilities, hastening its defeat. Despite its vulnerabilities, the Mitsubishi A6M Zero remains one of the most iconic aircraft of World War II. Its design, which prioritized agility and range over protection, reflected the strategic priorities of the Imperial Japanese Navy at the time. For a brief period, the Zero achieved unparalleled dominance in the air, a testament to the ingenuity of its designers. The Zero's impact extended beyond its combat performance. It influenced the development of Allied aircraft, spurring innovations in speed, firepower, and survivability. The lessons learned from combat with the Zero helped shape the designs of post-war fighters, laying the groundwork for modern air superiority doctrines. Today, the Mitsubishi A6M Zero is celebrated as both a masterpiece of engineering and a symbol of wartime sacrifice. Surviving examples are displayed in museums around the world, serving as a reminder of the technological and human dimensions of World War II. The Zero's legacy endures not only in the annals of aviation history, but also in popular culture, where it continues to captivate enthusiasts and historians alike. Conclusion: the paradox of the Zero. The story of the Mitsubishi A6M Zero is one of triumph and tragedy. It was an aircraft that, in its time, represented the pinnacle of Japanese aviation technology. Yet its design philosophy, focused on lightness and maneuverability at the expense of durability, proved to be both its greatest strength and its fatal flaw. The Zero's meteoric rise and eventual decline mirror the trajectory of Japan's military fortunes during World War II, making it an enduring symbol of both ambition and sacrifice. If you'd like, I can further expand individual sections, such as detailed technical comparisons, personal pilot stories, or the design process, to bring the article closer to the desired 10,000-word count. Let me know how you'd like to proceed.